Hello there. And today I'm going to be reviewing Star Wars The Force Awakens since May the 4th is near. It seems as good of a time as any to review it.
2 hours later.
Oh, well, where do we begin? I think the positives are where we should start since I have little good to say to you. Number one, it is good that they managed to get the original actors to reprise the roles from the original trilogy, since, let's face it, it'd be weird if other actors played Luke, Leia, and Han. Number two, visually, the movie does look pretty good with the CGI effects used. Maybe not as good as Avatar, but still pretty decent. Number three, they got John Williams for the soundtrack, which is nice since it seems like all of his work is fantastic. Also, another positive is that I can use this.
Weapon charging.
That's still warming up, sir.
Come again?
Warming up, sir.
Warming up! The sun is warming up!
And now for my issues. The first problem I had starts with the opening text crawl that occurs at everything Star Wars. Why is it that with the First Order and Resistance, it's caps lock, but yet most of the text isn't? It's like the movie wants to say First Order and Resistance! And yes, I know that this nitpicking since it really doesn't have anything to do with the story as a whole, so consider it as an appetizer of sorts. The second problem is that when Poe and Finn escaped from the First Order, they took a TIE fighter, which apparently had a separate gunner seat in the back. This raises several questions, like why didn't in other movies and shows they shoot from the back, but instead they only shoot from the front? Or, if we just focus on this movie, why is it that no other TIE fighter shoots from the back either, only the front? Was this like an experimental TIE fighter? Do all TIE fighters have a back gunner seat? And even if that was true, then why is it we do not see a back gunner at all in anything else? Only the pilot. I don't know. The third problem is when Poe and Finn crash into Jakku, Finn goes to the crash site to get Poe, but the only thing he could get was a jacket Poe was wearing. Now I ask you, are you seriously telling me that when Finn grabbed the jacket and didn't see Poe, he instantly thought that he died by getting sucked into the sinkhole? I mean, if Poe wasn't in the cockpit, wouldn't Finn's first thought that maybe he got out and just lost the jacket? Or wouldn't there be evidence that he possibly ejected from his seat? To me, it feels like the writers of the movie wanted people to go like, oh, no, wait, he survived? But it just feels like a cheap plot twist. The fourth problem is that Starkiller Base doesn't have any cameras at all. Oh, sure, they may have motion sensors that were used when Rey was trying to escape, but why didn't they have any cameras so that they can actually see where people are at any given time? I mean, this is basically the third Death Star, and yet they still have very lackluster security measures. How many planet-killing machines need to be destroyed for people to realize that these weapons need to be heavily guarded at all times? And the fifth problem I have is Rey and Kylo Ren. Let's start with Rey. So Rey is a scrapper who lives on Jakku and eventually gets swapped up in a mission for the Resistance and has to fight against the First Order. The problem I have with Rey is her uncanny ability to have all the power she wants.
From now on, you only get to have one power. So what is it? I have the power to have all the powers I want.
She is an expert pilot, a great shot, can fix or destroy anything on a ship or Starkiller Base, and can even use the Force with zero training at all. Although I must say that to a point at least, it makes sense that she would know how to fix and destroy things since she is a professional scrapper for many years. Some stuff, like how she unplugged a plug at Starkiller Base and it opened up a door that Han and Chewie just needed to be opened at that specific moment, doesn't really make any sense. Like, how or were you able to do this without looking at any diagram that shows you what goes to what? However, what sense does it make that not only can she fly, but be able to outmaneuver trained TIE fighter pilots when we only saw her drive a land speeder for all of 5 minutes? Or how about her being a better shot than the stormtroopers when we never saw her use a gun? And yes, I know that stormtroopers suck with aim, but still, the least excusable is her learning Obi-Wan's Jedi mind trick and force pull without a teacher, and can also beat Kylo Ren at a lightsaber battle. Oh, and by the way, if you're still here, you will subscribe to my channel and leave a like right now. And that brings me to Kylo Ren and my issue with him. To me, he is not a threatening villain or an intimidating villain. Sure, he has his moments, like how he was able to stop a blaster shot in midair and hold it for a minute or two, but especially in the last act, he was not that much of a threat. I mean, the guy lost to an untrained Padawan, even though he's supposed to have been training for years. It'd be like if the Joker never put Batman in a very dangerous and difficult circumstance. Every hero needs not just a villain, but a competent villain that is always a challenge for the hero to overcome. And Kylo Ren just isn't it. As such, he suffers because Rey is already incredibly capable with no troubles, and Rey suffers because Kylo Ren is too weak for her. Also, he took off his stupid helmet, so all mystery of what he looks like, gone. One last point I like to make is this movie was way too similar to episode 4. Rey starts her journey on a desert planet, wanting to leave, but then she's swept up in various events that put her in a war, and she figures out that she can use the Force. That's just Luke. Or how about when Kylo Ren kills Han Solo? Very similar to Vader killing Obi-Wan. Not to mention, Han was kinda treated as a mentor of sorts to Rey, like how Obi-Wan was to Luke. Or how about that to destroy Starkiller Base, the shields had to be turned off first, and then a bomber run starts, and that is how it's destroyed. It's basically just the same as the first 2 Death Stars. Or how about Poe being some hotshot pilot and Finn not really wanting to get involved with the Resistance until he has a change of heart? That's just Han. If you've seen episode 4, you've basically seen episode 7. And yes, I know that George Lucas had said that Star Wars was like poetry and that rhymes, but I think that maybe the writers of episode 7 had taken that a little too literally. It's one thing for stories to have parallels, it's another for it to just be a copy and paste, but worse. Overall, I'd give the movie a 6 out of 10. May not be the worst thing I've ever seen in movies, but it is far from good, especially when you realize all it is just an inferior version of episode 4.